welcome back to the Mission Accepted podcast show. Thank you so much for being here. I am so excited. We have an incredible guest today that encompasses, I would say, a lot of what we're talking about here, right? She's a woman who's in the media. She's a speaker. She's definitely hitting the stage. She's an entrepreneur. She's an entrepreneur. She is a mother of 3 girls. Okay, so for those of you that have girls, we know it can get pretty funky. Who's going to be fighting over the blow dryer, the flat iron, the lipstick? She's got all those years to look forward to. So this is a juggling woman. If you haven't been to Mission Accepted, this is the place where we kind of crack open those secrets that all of us entrepreneurs like to keep to ourselves. We've got this little club, and it's called Are You Kidding Me? It's the Are You Kidding Me Club. So we get to talk about that here to hopefully inspire you and make you have maybe have a good belly laugh every once in a while. Just realizing that there's people here doing kind of what you're doing. So without further ado, from beautiful Vancouver, Canada, where we're having a gorgeous, beautiful day today, we are talking to Liz in London. Welcome to the show, Liz.
Hello, thank you. Hi, Deborah.
Hey, honey. We're just having a great conversation about kind of where you're at as an entrepreneur right now. I've had the blessing to see Liz go through this transformation. And what would you say about that? I mean, I'm going to let you kind of tell people your story a little bit about who you are and how you decided to become an entrepreneur. I mean, some people, they set out that way. You look at these millennials and or not millennials, we're talking about Gen Z earlier, and they're like, woo, it's just so available to them. They're like, the idea of being an entrepreneur is kind of like when we got introduced in school to being, you could be a nurse, you could be a secretary, you could be an airline stewardess, right? And it's these things that they come across. For some of us, it's an accidental experience where we have something that rolls into. I mean, I see you more in that ballpark of like, you're going in one direction and the next thing you know, you're just like kicking it out as an entrepreneur due to an experience that you had. And then some people, they lose their job, or some people, they have this epiphany that they don't want to work for anyone else. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you decided to venture into this incredible world of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, no, thank you, Deb. So I think it kind of started, I was in a relationship with somebody for kind of 18 years, and within that relationship always knew that kind of the feelings that I was having wasn't quite right, and I couldn't necessarily put my finger on what it was. And now kind of come sort of 2017, kind of getting in that relationship from sort of 2001, I kind of started to understand that actually, you can be in an abusive relationship, but not necessarily it be characterized by being physically beaten all the time, or sporadically or on occasions. So I was kind of going through this kind of mental trauma. So it was almost like an internal battle and an external battle. So on the outside, people looked in on my life and thought, oh my God, this is great. This is wonderful. You've got lovely kids. You've got this nice house. You've got all of this stuff. But internally, it wasn't what I was feeling. I was thinking something can't be right. And it wasn't until I really started to kind of sort of step away from almost be the observer of my life and go, actually, do you know what? This isn't right. Something is not right here. And it wasn't until I kind of did that and stepped into that presence almost, I kind of got still and I was like, what is this? And then I started to look at other forms of abuse, kind of namely coercive control, where you don't necessarily have to have the element of that violence, of that physical violence. And so I was experiencing a lot of the other stuff, the kind of gaslighting and the kind of people that don't know, it's that kind of distortion of reality, and just sort of wondering what I was feeling. And from then I kind of broke free from that relationship, cut a long story short, and then decided that actually, all the things that I wanted to do that I didn't think I was capable of doing because of my perception of myself within that relationship, I was like, no, I want to write a book, and and I want to write a book because I want to be able to help other people that are going through what I'm going through, who are not necessarily being sort of beaten up or raped, which within themselves are horrendous, but kind of looking at domestic violence in a very different, domestic abuse in a very different way. So I decided to write the book because I wanted to kind of help people to understand what they were going through, but equally to kind of give people some tools that I had used, kind of that blueprint that kind of helped me to break free from that relationship as well, while empowering yourself, empowering themselves, empowering myself. And so once I made the decision, I then decided that I wanted to be a speaker and I wanted to spread awareness of coercive control. And not just spread awareness of coercive control, but also kind of, you know, look at what it is within us that that allows us to be in a relationship for so long, but ultimately we know that our feelings on that relationship aren't right. So it's about kind of moving on from that, spreading awareness of coercive control, but also looking at how can we empower ourselves to break free from something that kind of has you tied. It's those sort of invisible chains. And once I actually made that decision, I then decided that my first on-stage speaking event was going to be that. A decision can shift a paradigm. And it was kind of the learned behaviours and all the repetition that I had to do in order to change who I was ultimately, and to look at myself differently and to see myself as a different person that can do things that I once believed were impossible, and all those beliefs about myself. It was about kind of relearning that, changing that, which then allowed me to step out and go, oh, actually, I can do this. I can get on stage. I can speak to people. I can reach out. I can help people. And I think that that's kind of what sort of put me on this path of kind of, you know, everything sort of started to come towards me. So I wasn't necessarily, and one thing that I do mention a lot and that I hold within my life now is that I always kind of looked for a purpose. You know, I'd study and I'd do this and I'd do a master's and I'd do this and I'd be like, right, what can I do? And I was always looking for something, but actually within that whole experience in reframing it, I didn't have to look for it. I just had to kind of line up with it. And that's exactly what I've done now. And once it kind of comes from that aligned place, that desired place, you keep going and you keep going. And I've found that just so many more opportunities have opened up for me, but not necessarily just opened up for me, have opened up for me, but to be able to help other people and serve other people and get other people on that track of empowerment and kind of, you know, believing in themselves, because ultimately that's what, you know, you lack that belief in yourself. And so, yeah, it's just kind of been a whirlwind of things really since kind of writing the book. And obviously, Deborah, you had, you know, it was amazing for you to be able to write the foreword for my book, which absolutely meant the world to me. And it was wonderful that, you know, somebody like you had the understanding as well of what I was going through within that. So it was just kind of, yeah, just all positive things have come into the experience since that. And hence the reason you can't kind of look at it as a negative thing. You can't kind of look at it in terms of a you know, sort of, you know, victim mode. It's got to be, do you know what, I did have that experience, I went through it, but you can come out of it, and you can achieve wonderful things once you kind of make a decision and have a desire to do so. So it's just kind of been like, whoa, but all exciting.
Well, it has been a bit of, you know, I can understand how it would feel like a whirlwind from someone on the outside watching. And then also, I think it's, you know, and then the perception. So when I was talking to a woman yesterday, and we were talking about everything that I was doing in the media company. And she goes, we just need, like, she's like, whoa, like, she goes, I don't know how you pulled that off. The interesting thing, you know, the one thing that really caught my attention when you shared was when you talked about how you really had to shift the perception of yourself. Because when you were in an environment, that had altered your perception of yourself or played on your natural weaknesses, right? Which is when you take that philosophy out into the world, many of us are you were in an unhealthy environment within the confines of your home. Some people, that's their office space. Yeah. Some people, they're healthy at their home, but then they go to a family member's or a colleague's or someone who's a friend or what have you, and something doesn't feel quite right, right? And then it's giving you, it's kind of, you know, the blanket name would be low self-esteem, but when you have those parts of you that are getting skewed a little bit, somehow it is rewiring or is reworking or is reestablishing that part of ourselves. When I think about how you've gone on your journey of empowerment and how one door opened up to a positive person to this positive person, it really has been shifting and going through a path that most people would say is courageous at least, right? And I mean, and at the highest, probably even more so. it's important to start to find that these pieces of yourself that you can affirm, right? Like that you, I mean, I remember going through that process when you were nervous to speak or you were nervous to that. And who's in your circle? Like, you know, share with us how did you change from having these perceptions, you know, of yourself, or believing these perceptions of yourself, getting back to who you were enough where not only could you break free, because if I remember correctly, when you broke free, you weren't like, you were still wounded. You were still in a place of being wounded. So what were some of the techniques that you used to go from not feeling good about yourself? Because I think everybody on the planet, entrepreneur or not, will recognize there's times where we don't feel great about ourselves. How did you get yourself to a place where you could continue to move in a direction that you are now?
Yeah, and I think that when I looked at things, I kind of had to kind of step back and be the observer. So I would be very much kind of you know, if something didn't necessarily feel right, in order to have an easy life, I would probably, you know, agree with it, but actually that wasn't necessarily the right thing to do. But actually standing back, being the observer and go, no, actually you're not wrong in that. That's actually really reasonable and acceptable to do. When I started to do that more and more, I started to understand and have an idea about who they were more as a person, and actually no, actually, do you know what, I'm not been unreasonable in this situation. It is fair for me to, I don't know, want to go for a walk on my own. There is actually nothing wrong with that. Whereas before, the guilt of, oh, why do you want to walk on your own? Why do you want to do something? You do realize that's not right for someone to want to walk on their own. That's really lonely. That's really sad. So rather than take that on, I was very much like, no, actually, it is okay if I want to go for a walk on my own. And I started kind of doing that gradually. And the more I did that, the more I started to understand that the things that I was doing wasn't wrong. They weren't wrong acts that I was doing, and I should have been entitled to do those without any issues. And then I was like, then it made me question, why is there an issue with what I'm doing? And it then made me look at the relationship very differently. So that's the first thing that I began to do. The second thing was I started to just make those little decisions that I didn't used to make. So as an example, going for a walk or going to the shop and buying something without having to be, you know, accountable or answering questions about what I've spent and why I've spent that. And I started to do that with my own time. So when I could fit it in around the children, rather than be at home clearing up, worried about what the reaction would be, it was very much like, no, do you know what, I'm going to do this. And the more I started to do little things like that, the more it kind of helped me to understand that there isn't anything wrong with that. I kind of felt like I was living a life where I was always wrong in my actions, wrong in what I was doing. And actually that wasn't, that was just kind of their perception of me being wrong because they needed to control everything that I did. And I think the more that I kind of, you know, did my own thing, made those decisions, but also kind of stood back and looked at my life from the outside, I was able to go, oh, actually, no, do you know what, I'm not wrong. And actually it was about finding these little things that actually created peace in my heart. The other things and how I was, how I looked at things, how I viewed things, how I perceived things didn't create peace in my heart. And that wasn't right. And so I kind of started on this journey as to do these desired things that actually created peace in my heart to enable me to move on, and kind of want to live that better life rather than feel like I was stuck in this position where I couldn't do anything. So those are the kind of sort of the little things that I did initially to start off with in order to kind of start the transformation process.
Right. And so here you are. So you now have written a beautiful book called Breaking Free that's inspiring people all over the world.
Yes.
And by our story, which is one of the most powerful things that I believe that we have is our story. Whether it's the full story, part of the story. I mean, and that's truly, I think I think what entrepreneurs are, entrepreneurs, and when we share with people on how we got to where we got to, it's an ongoing, I mean, we're mentoring all the time just by sharing with people and giving people advice on how to get to where they're going. So you've managed your way. So tell me, when you made the decision to write the book, there's a lot of people that are listening that are authors. There's a lot of people that have written books that are not necessarily about their personal life, right? And it's a very different experience when you go to choose to share with the world something personal. I know that I've had my story, my business story, just writing my business story and putting it in a book twice now, it's a little harder to write because you're like, there's this sense of people are going to get to know me. What was it like for you writing your story in a book? For those of you out there that want to really, you're like, I've got my story to tell and I really want to tell it. What are some of the things that you went through doing that?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that I went through was, oh my God, I can't believe that this is a decision that I want to do. I want to kind of put myself out there. But then when I realized the pain that I went through, and actually knowing that if I do write my book, even if and I always had this in my mind, if I could just help one person not go through what I went through, it would be worth it. Because that pain, that kind of that inner pain that I felt for so many years, because I didn't really know what was going on or what I was experiencing, I didn't want somebody else to go through that. And if it meant reading my story, and gaining that, resonating with it and understanding actually that this does happen. It doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter how much you're getting paid, it doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter who your family are. Everybody can experience abuse. And I kind of wanted to come away as well from those, from those typical stereotypical risk factors that we have, if you're on low income, or if you're in an area that's kind of, low income demographics, and you're more likely to be. And I thought, well, do you know what, not saying that those risk factors aren't relevant, but they're not the be all and end all. And it's about understanding that, just because you look a certain way, or I've been told many times, gosh, you don't look like somebody that would be, you don't fit that kind of, that typical of what somebody would look like to be. You look like you're strong, that you're all of this stuff. And I kind of wanted to kind of break that narrative and sort of say, do you know what, it can happen to anyone, and there's nothing to be ashamed of if it does happen to you. And so I think that was really important for me to kind of write the book in order to get that message across, and that far outweighed any fears and anxieties and worries that I had. Even though I did have those fears, worries and anxieties, it far outweighed them to write the book, to be able to just help that one person not go through what I went through.
Well, and thank you for sharing that, because that happens to be the case with a lot of people. And, it's like, so what I took away from that was, have a reason or have a why bigger that overrides the fears that you're doing. And so that's where, when you hear a lot of people that give suggestions around how to be successful in life, no matter what you're looking to accomplish, is having the pictures of the goals, or having pictures of your family, or, keep your eye on the prize, meaning like, why am I doing this? Keep the main thing. And then the fears are still there, but you're able to mentally override them, because the purpose and the passion is bigger than the cost of what possibly could be there. I think that's a great almost strategy and technique for getting through, being able to put that down. So I have to ask you, because, I have 2 children, as you know. My daughter is almost 29, and she's about to have her second child on May 19th. And then I have an 18-year-old who's launching his first business. I've been parenting since my 20s, and let's just say I'm not 20 anymore. I guess if you start doing up the numbers, you're going to figure out that I'm not 20 anymore. So I've been parenting and juggling my entrepreneurial career for a long time. You have 2 daughters that went through this experience with you, and you've recently brought another beautiful girl into the world. And so please tell us, how do you juggle the life of a speaker, someone who cares for other people? Because you also have a private client base that, you work with people in program, and they can hire you to help them through their own process of empowerment. How do you juggle life? Give us some Liz tips from London. Liz from London says that I should not care about my dishes getting done. I mean, tell us the reality of a life entrepreneurial mom.
Yeah, well, I guess it kind of is, it is hectic, but not hectic in a way where it's like, oh my gosh, it's off-putting. It is what it is, and you kind of make things work around what you've already got. I think that's probably the most important thing. I think to try and have something in place and then try and bring something else new in, and then try and rejiggle and rejuggle what's already happening, can make life really difficult. Whereas if you know the situation, I know the routine with my older girls, my 8 and 9-year-olds. I know the routine with them. I've also got a new little girl, she's 6 weeks old, starting to kind of know her routine a little bit around sort of feed times, you know, school drop-off times, pick-up times, then you've got the activities as well. And it's about going, to know what, actually, I know that this is more of a chilled day. You can never kind of, you know, 100% predict what's going to happen even when you don't have children. So I think actually it makes me more consistent in the sense that, right, okay, Tuesdays I'm a bit more free, so I don't have to do the school drop off that morning, but then I have to do it then, and we kind of juggle it around, and actually, do you know what, it works. And then any sign that I think, oh, something's kind of not sort of gelling, then that's again, then I can kind of make the changes and kind of jiggle things about. But one thing I will say, it's all about doing it, and once you do something where it comes from a desired place, where you feel the love when you're doing it. I'm not doing it for the likes. Do you know what I mean? It's like chronics. I'm doing it for the love. I'm not doing it for the likes, you know. And that when you kind of come from it from that place, you don't feel like it's work as such. You don't feel like it's a hassle, or you're having to do all this. It just kind of flows. Do you know what I mean? It's that ease and flow and that energy where it goes. And so and I think that that's one thing that I kind of will sort of advocate that it's, you know, once it comes from that desired place, it's lovely. I get excited about jumping on a call, you know, through Zoom with my clients and talking to them and seeing their progress, and it's wonderful. And even if I have kind of, you know, dedicated day where I'm doing these back to back, it's worth it. You know, at the end of it, I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
you know, get the sleep, absolutely exhausted, but actually it's such a lovely feeling afterwards. It outweighs that kind of the hustle and the bustle, but equally that's enjoyable as well, you know, when you see your children growing and you see all the other stuff, which is a lovely distraction from the other work stuff as well. It kind of keeps me going. It's the energy that I get from both that keeps me going, and the energy comes from a desired positive place, and kind of that's just where it's at, and it's a good feeling.
Awesome. Thank you. That's there's some great tips in there, right? Just again, I'm just hearing so much passion, and when you have that dedication, and it falls into place, and or you make it work. You know,
Yeah.
and I love that. I love it. You're doing it for the love, not the likes. Girlfriend, that is a hashtag t-shirt. Honestly, that is brilliant. That is brilliant. I'm like,
Somebody always listens to this song. His name's Chronix, just an absolutely amazing kind of rapper, singer, song artist, and he's brilliant. And he's just got, and I love it. And it's like, oh my God, that's so true. Doing it for the love, not for the likes. And that's where it, do you know what I mean? It comes from the actual love of doing something, not the amount of this that you can get. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
about kind of,
ooh, look at all the thumbs up on my Facebook. I'm so good at what I do.
Even though you're still in full appreciation of that, but that's not the reason why, you know, that's not the reason why. And it's such a good feeling.
I love that. I was talking to a woman yesterday. She's an amazing woman. I'm going to connect you. And she's got this great TV show. And she's from Georgia. And I'm going to meet her producers in Dallas. And we're having this great conversation. And so I was explaining the book that I've got coming up that I know that you're going to be a part of. And it's 262 women, entrepreneurs, creatives, and media, rock legacy and tell all. And she's like, what's an entrepreneur? I'm like, oh, girl, let me tell you. She goes, I'm stealing that word. I'm like, you can't steal my word. She goes, I'm stealing your word. She's like, that's now going in my marketing. So I am now going to steal your, wherever you stole it from, I don't care. I stole it from you. I love that. I'm seriously going to get a t-shirt. That's awesome. That's awesome. So look, you are a speaker. And again, a lot of people want to get on stage. So maybe tell us a little bit about speaking. Like, how did you come to that decision? I mean, we know why. We know you want to get the word out. What a great place to do it. It's on stage. But so as a speaker, do people come to you? Are there, like, how does it work for you for speaking? Because people are always involved, there's a new wave of speakers, new wave of brave.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it comes from kind of, you know, you've got the you know, the typical either LinkedIn or Instagram, Facebook, or any of the kind of you know, the social media outlets that you know, people can contact me, or you can go to my website, and you know, it's kind of, you can go on there, have a look, and it's just about, you know, if there is something that either your agency or your workplace to do with domestic abuse or coercive control kind of needs any training, because obviously in this country, you know, we now have the Domestic Abuse Act of 2001, which kind of got royal assent then, and there's been a lot of changes with the law on coercive control, and it's about kind of making sure that agencies and law enforcement places are up to date with the laws in terms of how they can kind of implement their practices and policies. And so that's kind of, you know, one of the reasons why people may want to kind of get in contact with me. And also it could be just for kind of podcasts or you know, kind of just like Instagram lives that I've been invited on as well. And it's, you know, it's just about, you know, somebody, you know, like me, who has kind of been there and done that through experience, who is able to kind of, you know, offer help and support to all different people, all different agencies, all different corporations. And it's just a kind of, you know, an easy way of, you know, kind of getting knowledge from one person. And it may not be just me, but it could be somebody else that they're using as well. But it's nice to have that array of people that have that knowledge, specifically on coercive control, because it can be quite tricky to understand, especially in terms of burden of proof and, you know, how the law sees it, how people's perceptions of this type of crime is, which can be quite difficult within itself. So, but yeah, kind of those are the sort of the outlets that are used at the moment to kind of contact me and, you know, kind of do these speaking events, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. It was more sort of 15 years ago. I always had in my mind that I wanted to do that, but never ever thought that I could do it. I mean, I was absolutely terrified, you know, still am. I have those elements where I'm like, oh my gosh, but it doesn't stop me from doing it. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't stop me. And the you know, my feeling, you know, when I did my first on stage speaking event, I was so nervous before, but coming off the stage, having done it, I was like, this is me. This is absolutely me. I want to do this. I'm not going to stop doing this. And it's me that's kind of overcome my ultimate fear. That was always my fear over the 15 years. Oh God, I could never stand on stage. I could never do that. And again, I kind of pushed myself, and I was able to do it. And again, that was making that decision. It always goes back to that decision, Deborah. You make that decision and you just go confidently in that direction. And you will attract the things where you're lined up with. That's my 100% belief now, and that's kind of what's happening. So it's all good and it's all positive.
And you know what, if you're out there looking to speak, what a great, because you really touched on some things. Like, it's great to practice in terms of, you know, doing lives in your social media, and then collaborating, and then being on the experience of being interviewed, and then interviewing, and then making your way up there. And of course, there's lots of coaches and all sorts of people that will help that process. But for you, I think, again, you just were talking about how the vision was bigger and it overrides your fear. I've been getting on stages for a very, very long time. And I'll tell you, I still to this day feel like I can't eat that day. I mean, depending on how many people I'm talking in front of, I think nerves can just be a part of the game and part of what you get over, right? So I got to ask you, because the content of what you do is so empowering. And I was talking earlier about how I really feel like you're iconic. Like, I feel that, you know, when people follow you, whether they've had an experience like that or not, just following a woman on path, you know, is incredible. What do you do for, I mean, I know your life is full, and I know your passion is children and your relationship and your business and all of that, but like, what does Liz do to take care of Liz? What do you do to, you know, take the pressure off? What do you do for fun? Like, where does that come in?
Yeah, I think for me, I love reading. I love sitting and reading, and it's actually quite an old book now, but at the moment I'm reading Wayne Dyer, Your Erroneous Zones, and you know, I just love to read. I really do. I love to walk as well, and this is not something that I really ever had what I felt I had the opportunity to do, because I felt very stuck, because I felt very conscious and worried about covering myself up and not wanting to wear certain things, and now I kind of embrace that, and I love going for walks, and it just kind of, and sometimes I'll have some like meditation music playing in the background, you know, or on my on my iPods, and you know, just walking along and just enjoying that. And I also like to I don't know if I'm going to regret saying this, I also like to just dance. Like, I'm actually getting embarrassed now. So I'll have the music on. Again, I love Chronic, so I'll have it in the background and I'll just be dancing, just literally just dancing to myself. And that's what I do as well. So I'm not sure.
Okay, sister. I'm telling you, it was funny because today, why that question came up, I'm not sure why. I was like, I'm going to ask Liz this. Okay, so my 2 favorite things to do is read and walk. And, you know, I know that most people are listening to the podcast, they're not visually, but if they were, they would see this gorgeous, beautiful 1967 Janis Joplin poster in the back. Yeah. And I'm much into music. I do the same thing. And you know what? So this is what you can tell people you do. So I do dance. I sing country in the morning. I'm like, woo, I pretend I'm Loretta Lynn. But here's the deal. So I was watching this thing of Tony Robbins, and he was like trying to get people to like make movements before the workshop or whatever. He's like, you got to change your state. I'm like, I know how I change my state. I just dance. I dance in the morning. So you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. I think there's a lot of us out there. We should have our own Facebook group. But it's so good to change your state. So based on Tony's philosophy and research, if you change your state, you change everything. And so isn't that funny? I relate to you on so many different levels. Oh my gosh.
The things that I was coming out with.
Oh my gosh. I won't tell oh, there you go. Oops. Whipped off a bit. Okay, so here we go. I know we're going to wrap it up. We've had some great, so look, you've written an incredible book called Breaking Free, and people can get that. I want you to tell people you do private sessions, which is really important because this can be quite personal information for people. Absolutely. And you're that supportive vehicle. Tell people where they can get in touch with you and all of that right now, and then we'll ask you a nice final question.
Yeah, okay. So basically I'm on all social media. So I'm on some Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. I've also got a website. My website is www.lisreallywhat.com. You can go on there and you can book into the Calendly link, and we can either get together for Zoom, have a conversation. I also offer one-to-one coaching. I've just released my new coaching program, which was basically to break free from coercive control. It's the exact blueprint that I used. I've kind of adapted it over the last sort of couple of years. So I've come fresh with something new for 2000 and for where we are now, 2022. Think about that.
Yeah, don't worry. That's my fault. I tell people don't timestamp this, so that they're like, so in this year 2000.
So that's kind of running at the moment, and that's kind of, you know, being really successful, really positive. A lot of clients come through that program with really good results, so that's positive. But you can find my and the website as well, so that could be for speaking events, one-to-one, coaching program, also group coaching as well. Sometimes people prefer that option as well, to kind of, gather a sort of a community. My book's available on Amazon. You can literally go on there, and if you just type in Lis Hoyte, Lishoyte, my book will come up. So it's available for download, or you can get the hard copy as well, or you can contact me and I can send you a signed copy with a little message. And it's also available WH Smith, Lulu, Drafter Digital, and so it's kind of, available in many places. And a lot of it is just, connecting, just connecting on any of those social media sites. You can even message me on Messenger. But I'm here and I'm about, and the picture is very similar. Even on my book, it looks very much like me. So you won't be kind of, misunderstood if you kind of go somewhere else. It will be me. So
absolutely. Well, look, there's lots of places where people can find you, and I really appreciate what you do. As someone who trains, I train people in a whole different arena. My arena is, top performance in business.
Yeah.
But when I'm working with people in top performance in business, you can't not but work with the soul of the person,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you have systems. We have systems for getting people from where they are to where they want to go in whatever arena. And you work with the heart, the matters of the heart, and that's so incredible. So I'm going to wrap up with just kind of what it's so funny that you talked about dancing, because I was like, there's a great music. We won't be announcing it here, but I'm sure I will be over in the UK 2023. And I can say that because it's pretty well going to be any year I say it, I'll be there. But I'm really looking forward to meeting this woman in person. I can't wait till let's just put the opportunity out to be on stage together one day, rocking and talking, right? I'll be rocking and walking, but we'll be rocking and talking. And the question that I was going to kind of leave off with today, because I think it's very interesting, but now that I know that you love music, it's going to be even a harder question for you. So,
oh, no.
Yeah. Okay. So you're going to a desert island. Okay. Now you can only bring one album with you, one album, one record with you. Which one would you take?
I would take, this one's it's a while back, and it's Pink, and it's called Can't Take Me Home. I think she'd done it in the 90s, and it was just such a wonderful kind of mix of R&B, and it was just so great. And you had some really fast ones on there, really slow ones, but lyrically I think that the album was so good for that time, and I just love all the songs on there, so it would definitely be Pink, Can't Take Me Home.
All right. So you heard it here first, people. So if you want to make your way into Lis's heart, you need to go to the record store. As always, it's a pleasure. It's been amazing to see you grow again. I can't wait for us to be in person and meeting and having that first initial hug. You're an incredible woman. Such an honor to be able to participate in your book on any level. And I wish you great success. Everybody knows how to reach you. We're going to be sending all that out as well. And so thanks for coming on to Mission Accepted. And I want to say to our listeners and to our viewers, please, if you know somebody that needs to hear any of what Lis shared today, not only because of my personal experience, but from a speaker experience, from an author experience, right? From an entrepreneur experience, please share the episode. That's what we do. We share the love, and you can like it. You can like our love. And if you think that you have something that you want to share with the world and you fall in that category, creative or media or what have you, I want to hear from you. If you want to take your business to the next level, I want to hear from you. If you want to get into a mastermind with a collective of people doing the same thing you want to do, I want to hear from you. So thank you so much for being my guest today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we, again, next week, will have someone that'll be rocking your socks off. So thanks, everybody. Bye for now.